Very, very important. So if you have a quadratic expression, ax square plus bx plus c, and we convert this into a perfect square, it is like this. And if a is positive, it would be upward opening parabola. And in case a is negative, it is downward opening parabola. So the sign of a basically decides whether it will be upward or downward. Step number one. Then step number two, we find D. Find discriminant, which is basically b square minus 4ac. So sign of D or the value of D basically decides whether the graph parabola would be intersecting x-axis, whether it will not be intersecting x-axis, or it will be touching x-axis. That will be decided by D. Suppose you have D less than 0. If D is less than 0, parabola will not intersect x-axis. Parabola will not intersect x-axis. That also means that the equation, the quadratic expression does not have any zeros, because the point where the graph is intersected by x-axis, the graph intersect x-axis are the zeros of the quadratic expression. So when D is less than 0, parabola will not intersect x-axis. Right? So if I plot graph in this case, suppose D is less than 0, we know for sure that the parabola will not intersect or touch x-axis. This is f of x, positive, 0, negative. So when D is 0, D is less than 0, A is positive. The parabola would be something like this. Upward opening parabola because A is positive. Since D is negative, in other words, you can say that the equation does not have any real roots. When real roots are not there, imaginary roots are there, parabola will not intersect or touch x-axis. Also, this point, this is called turning point, TP. The turning point is always minus b by 2a. Why it is minus b by 2a? Because if you look at this expression, this is a perfect square. Minimum value of a perfect square is always 0. So when this is minimum, the value of the polynomial will also be minimum at that particular point. When x is minus b by 2a, f of x will become minus b by 4a. So the turning point is always minus b by 4a. This is the turning point, minus b by 2a, comma, minus b by 4a. And this point would be minus b by 2a, comma, 0, because it lies on x-axis. So this is the graph of a parabola where a is positive and d is less than 0. A positive and d is less than 0. Turning point would be this. Also, it would imply that this fx is always positive or more than 0, and vice versa. Suppose you have a situation and a quadratic expression is always positive. This would happen only and only if d is less than 0, a is more than 0. So this would imply this, and this would imply this. And you can also say that the range of parabola, the value of fx will be always, minimum value would be close interval minus b by 2a, and the graph is going up and up, so the maximum value would be infinity. Draw this and write this down. When d is less than 0, a is greater than 0. D is less than 0 and a is greater than 0. Let's take an example also. Suppose we have a quadratic expression like this: x square minus 4x plus 5. We want to plot the graph for this, right? What do? You identify A, you identify B, you identify C. Look at A. A is positive. That means the graph is upward opening parabola, right? Then you find the value of D. What is D? D is B square 16 minus 4AC. D is coming out to be minus 4, which is basically negative, less than 0. That means this condition is satisfied. This condition is satisfied that D is less than 0 and A is positive. The graph would be something like this. But what will be the turning point? Turning point has coordinates minus B by 2A. What is B over here? B is minus 4 by 2A. What is A? A is 1. And what is Y coordinate? Minus D. D is minus 4 by 4A. What is A? A is 1. That means the turning point is 2 comma 1. That is the turning point. So we can easily plot the graph of this parabola. We can easily plot the graph by just knowing the sign of A, by finding the value of D, finding the turning point, these three things, and you can easily plot the graph. So graph of this parabola would be something like this. There's no need for us to take number of points and do it. This is basically 2 comma 0. This is turning point, which is 2 comma 1. This is the point where on the y-axis x would be 0. When I substitute x equal to 0, it would be 5. So this is the graph, and I can also say that this polynomial is always greater than 1. That is, the range of this polynomial is close interval 1 to infinity. It was so straightforward. In order to plot graph of a parabola, one thing, you know A, you have to know A, you have to know D, you have to know the turning point. That's it. This was a quadratic expression. A is 1, B is minus 4, C is 5. Found D, D is negative. That means the graph is not intersecting x-axis. It's not touching x-axis. Clear to everyone? Manaswini, Gayatri,
Yes,
Sarthak. All right.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What if A is less than 0? What if A is less than 0 and D is this is when A is less than 0 and D is also less than 0. A is less than 0, D is also less than 0. Because a is less than 0, graph has to be a downward opening parabola, right? D is negative, that means it won't be intersecting x-axis. That means in this situation, this quadratic expression would be always negative. So this would imply this and this would imply this. Turning point remains the same. TP would be the same as this, minus b by 2a comma minus d by 4a. And this would be minus b by 2a comma 0 because it's on x-axis, right? And if you don't know the range of this parabola, it belongs to minus infinity to minus d by 4. That is the range of this parabola. In case you have a situation when a is negative, this will be your answer. Do one thing, quickly plot this graph. Suppose you have f of x is equal to minus x squared plus 5x minus, let's plot the graph of this quadratic expression. Minus x squared plus 5x minus 9 is minus 1, b is 5, c is minus 9. The first step, identify the sign of a. Identify sign of a, whether it's negative or positive. So it's negative. To Gayatri, it would be upward or downward?
So downward.
It would be downward. The next step would be you find the value of discriminant. Tell me what is D coming out to be, Manaswini? Find the value of D. Is D coming out to be negative or positive?
So negative.
Okay. B square minus 4AC. So D is coming out to be 25 minus 36, right? Minus 11. D is negative. That means parabola is downward and it will not be intersecting x-axis. All right. So the parabola would be something like this. Then you can find the turning point. Then you can find the turning point. What is the turning point? Turning point would be minus b by 2a. This is the turning point. So what is minus b by 2a? Minus 5 by 2a. So this 5 by 2. This point is 5 by 2 comma 0. And what is d? The y coordinate. Minus d would be 11, 11 by 4a. Minus 11 by 4. Right? That is the turning point. This point, it is 0 comma minus. Do you know how do we get this point? By substituting x is equal to 0. On the y-axis, x is always 0. So when you substitute x equal to 0, you get the value of y or the point where graph intersect the y-axis. That means this quadratic expression has minimum value minus infinity. And what is the maximum value? Maximum value is minus 11 by 4. That means this quadratic expression is always negative. So just go through these two examples and this result. I hope it's clear to everyone.